I never imagined that holiday decorations would be the key to toppling the neighborhood tyrant. But life has a way of surprising you. Let me tell you about the time Marjorie Wilkins, or as everyone in Oakwood Estates calls her, Karen, messed with the wrong homeowner. I moved into Oakwood Estates 2 years ago, drawn by its immaculate properties and ideal location. The realtor casually mentioned the presence of an HOA, but assured me they were reasonable. That was my first mistake. The HOA wasn't reasonable. It was ruled by Marjorie Wilkins, a woman in her 50s with the classic authoritarian bob haircut and an insatiable hunger for control. From my first day, she made it clear she considered herself the unofficial mayor of Oakwood Estates. "Welcome to Oakwood Estates. I'm Marjorie Wilkins, HOA president. Here's a binder with all 173 community guidelines. I expect you to have them memorized by next week," she announced, while scanning my moving boxes like she was hunting for contraband. The first 6 months consisted of friendly reminders left under my door. My lawn was a 1/4 inch too high. My garbage bins were visible for 17 minutes after pickup. My mailbox was apparently the wrong shade of charcoal gray. Determined to be a good neighbor, I complied with each increasingly absurd demand. The breaking point came during the holiday season. I've always loved decorating for Christmas. Nothing excessive, just lights along the roof, a couple of reindeer on the lawn, and a wreath on the door. I double-checked the HOA guidelines confirming decorations were permitted from November 25th to January 5th. But the day after I finished, there was Marjorie on my doorstep, clipboard in hand. "Your display exceeds the wattage limit by 27 watts, and that inflatable snowman is 3 inches taller than allowed. Remove them immediately or face a fine," she snapped. Confused, I pointed out there was no mention of wattage or height restrictions in the handbook. "The board approved amendments last week. If you attended our meetings, you'd know," she huffed. I requested a copy of the amendments and meeting minutes. Her face twitched. "I'll have the secretary email them." Of course, they never arrived. Neighbor Tom later informed me no such meeting had occurred. Marjorie invented rules to target people she disliked. He advised me to document everything. Smart advice. I slightly adjusted my display, removing the snowman but keeping the rest. The next morning, a $100 fine notice was taped to my door. This was no longer petty. It was getting expensive. I resolved to attend the next HOA meeting, held in Marjorie's unnervingly pristine living room. A dozen residents sat silently on identical beige furniture. When I raised my concern during open forum, Marjorie cut me off. "The board has ruled on this matter." That night, I researched and learned Marjorie had been running the HOA like her personal fiefdom for years. Bylaws required annual elections. None had occurred in 4 years. Financial reports meant to be quarterly hadn't been distributed in 18 months. HOA dues had increased by 30% in 2 years without explanation. With Tom and a few others, we formed a coalition. Residents shared stories of arbitrary rule enforcement and unexplained fines, some paying thousands for violations that didn't exist. We formally requested financial records, a right under the bylaws. Marjorie stalled, claiming the records were under audit. When we pressed, she retaliated with violation notices for our group members. I was beginning to see her strategy: intimidate dissenters into submission. But what she didn't know was that before moving to Oakwood Estates, I worked as a paralegal in real estate law. I knew the legal limits of HOA power, and she was overstepping them. I documented every notice, recorded every conversation, our state is one-party consent, and saved every interaction. The turning point came on December 23rd. I returned from work to find my holiday decorations gone. A notice declared the HOA had confiscated non-compliant decorations, requiring $750 in fines for their return. I calmly rang Marjorie's bell. She opened the door with a smug grin. "Come to pay your fines?" she sneered. I asked where my property was. "In my garage. They'll be disposed of January 1st if your account stays delinquent." I caught sight of my reindeer figurine in her living room display. "That's my property, Marjorie. Return it." "It's HOA property now," she retorted. I pulled out my phone and recorded. "So you're admitting to taking my property without permission?" She slammed the door. I called the non-emergency police line. The officer sympathized but called it a civil issue. I contacted an attorney the next day. He was intrigued, especially when I revealed that my holiday lights were equipped with hidden security cameras. The footage showed Marjorie and 2 board members entering my yard at 1:15 a.m., removing decorations and discussing how to make an example of me before others questioned special assessment funds. By Christmas, I compiled a comprehensive file: videos, photos, recorded conversations, copies of fines, neighbor testimonies, and financial records analyzed by a resident accountant. It painted an ugly picture of power abuse and possible embezzlement. My attorney filed for an emergency injunction to preserve HOA records and sent Marjorie a formal demand for my property and 5 years of financial documents. We notified mortgage companies with stakes in the community. 3 days post-Christmas, Marjorie received a court summons. In response, she called an emergency HOA meeting to propose a $1,000 per household special assessment, claiming it was to defend the community from legal action. This only worsened her situation. At the meeting, I stood calmly. "Before we vote, everyone should know what they're paying for." I distributed redacted findings, revealing financial discrepancies. Neighbors murmured as they connected special assessments to Marjorie's recent home renovations and luxury vacations. Marjorie turned crimson. "This is slander! You'll hear from my attorney!" she barked, but the damage was done. The special assessment vote failed spectacularly. For the first time, Oakwood Estates residents openly defied her. In desperation, Marjorie tried to destroy evidence, including my decorations. Fortunately, I'd already retrieved the memory cards. When our attorney informed the court, the judge issued an immediate cease and desist. At the court hearing, armed with financial records showing Marjorie diverting HOA funds for personal use, landscaping, a new deck, vacations coded as community expenses, we presented everything, including video of her boasting about arbitrary fines and falsified records. Marjorie's attorney claimed she was speaking hypothetically. The judge wasn't buying it. "It sounded remarkably specific," she replied. Former board members testified to being pressured into approving undocumented expenses. The accountant revealed $80,000 in questionable spending over 3 years. By hearing's end, the judge issued a restraining order, barring Marjorie from HOA duties, froze the HOA's accounts, and ordered immediate return of confiscated property. The most satisfying moment came when the judge announced, "Ms. Wilkins, the court finds sufficient evidence to refer this matter to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges of theft, embezzlement, and fraudulent misrepresentation." Marjorie's carefully crafted facade collapsed as she was handed the court order. "This is ridiculous. I've done nothing but uphold community standards," she sputtered. "Miss Wilkins," the judge warned, "you're already in a precarious legal position. I suggest you refrain from making further statements." Mascara streaming down her face, the reality of her downfall finally settled on Marjorie Wilkins, the tyrant of Oakwood Estates who learned the hard way that even holiday decorations can bring justice.